Assalamu alaikum and a very good day to all of you out there. So welcome back to our lecture on financial regulatory framework with the focus of the regulation in Malaysia. And we are now moving on to part 2. So part 2 will be looking at the current financial reporting regime. The current financial reporting regime. Let's start. So before that, under the current financial reporting regime, we will first discuss the Financial Reporting Act 1997, right? And this was actually discussed in the textbook at page 3. And we also look at how that will be leading to the establishment of Financial Reporting Foundation and also another body which is a Malaysian Accounting Standards Board. We'll also be looking at the function of each of the two bodies. Okay, under the current financial reporting regime is that we now have the Financial Reporting Act 1997 and also the establishment of MASB, right? So let's move and look at that into detail. Okay. So somewhere in March 1997, the government has passed a new act which relates to financial reporting that were passed and gazetted. That act was Financial Reporting Act 1997. So I will be calling it FRA. So before this, there was no act on financial reporting. There was just act on the so-called Accountants Act 1967. So with this new act, Financial Reporting Act 1997, two bodies were being established, which is the Financial Reporting Foundation and MASB. So two independent bodies were established with the passing of the act. So that is in the current financial reporting regime. So what we'll be looking is that we're going to look at what are the role of these two independent body, in terms of what are the role as well as what role here we are talking about their functions. So FRF, we start off with FRF. FRF is the trustee body. So it has nothing to do with issuing standard, but it is just doing the administration work of the MASB, has been given the responsibility to oversight. So to oversee the MASB performance in terms of also arrange the financial and funding arrangement. So since this is passed under the Parliament, the Financial Reporting Act, so these are actually directly under Ministry of Finance, MOF. So therefore, Financial Reporting Foundation is the trustee body, or the so-called the one that provide funding and also provide some kind of advice, in terms of views for the MASB in the whatever activities done by MASB. So it has no direct responsibility to standard setting. So the responsibility here is more on looking at the regulatory support to the MASB. So it provides more on support, financial support, not regulatory support, financial support. The one that provides regulatory support is the Financial Reporting Act 1997. These are the function of Financial Reporting Foundation. You can go through. So basically, it provides views to MASB. Yeah, if MASB seek to undertake or implement anything to do with its function, so they provide views on any matters in relation to the MASB function. So we'll look at the MASB function later. But here you have seen that the function of MASB was written here as well. So that was one of it. Then also review the performance. This one provide views, but this one review the performance of the MASB. Right, responsible for the financing arrangement. Earlier I mentioned that the financing arrangement were channeled from the Ministry of Finance. So the approval of budget of MASB is by Financial Reporting Foundation, but Financial Reporting Foundation were the one that may have to follow the order of the Minister of Finance. So they have to perform whatever function prescribed by the Ministry of Finance. So they don't issue any standard. So this one is Malaysian Accounting Standards Board. Under the new financial reporting regime with the establishment of Financial Reporting Act 1997, right? MASB has been given the legal power to develop and issue accounting and financial reporting standards in Malaysia. So now the standard has the force of the legal force, right? So the MASB together with the FRS now make up the current financial reporting framework in Malaysia. So Financial Reporting Foundation did not issue any standard, but MASB is the one that were given the authority to issue accounting standards and do matters relating to the financial reporting standards in Malaysia. These are the function of Malaysian Accounting Standards Board. They issue accounting standard as approved accounting standard. Approved accounting standard. Approved accounting standards. Okay. So that is their role. They also review, revise, and adopt approved accounting standard. So maybe they review the accounting standard issued by the IASB, revise and adopt for operation in Malaysia, right? So as approved accounting standards. So in Malaysia, the approved accounting standards refers to the FRS. They also issue statement of principles for financial reporting. So you can check MASB website to see more on this. They sponsor or undertake development of here they issue statement of principles. They undertake the development of possible accounting standards. So they did undertake some possible accounting standards pertaining to Islamic accounting standards, financial reporting standards, right? You can also Google and find out the information on this possible or development or project being done by MASB. Next is that they conduct such public consultation. So they will conduct consultation to determine the content of the accounting concept, principles, and standard. There has been developed already the conceptual framework. Conceptual framework is the topic for us to discuss next in our topic 2, right? Conceptual framework. Make changes to the form and content of the proposed accounting standard. Make changes means make amendments, make changes. Make changes. Right? This one, public consultation. They perform such other functions. So what you will see is the last function of MASB is similar to the last function of FRF, which is they need to go and follow whatever function that may be prescribed or ordered by the Ministry of Finance. Okay, we move on to part 3, which is Statutory Regulation on Financial Accounting and Reporting in Malaysia. We look at what are the regulation or the specific requirement that are laid down by the particular authority with regards to financial accounting and reporting. We will start off by looking at the requirement of Financial Reporting Act itself, this one. And then we'll be looking at the reporting requirements of Companies Act 2016, Income Tax Act 1967, what are the requirements pertaining to financial accounting and reporting, regulation by Securities Commission with regards to financial reporting, Audit Oversight Board, regulation by Bursa Malaysia, and regulation by Bank Negara Malaysia. So let's see. Before that, the first part is looking at Financial Reporting Act that was passed in 1997. So the important part is that they have this particular section that now requires compliance. So it's a legal requirement now. If the directors did not comply with the approved accounting standard in the preparation of financial statement, that is actually things that are against the law. Meaning to say that if the financial statement of a company, they must now make sure that the financial statement are prepared with the approved MASB accounting standard. So approved accounting standard is the MFRS, right? At the moment it's MFRS until MFRS is Malaysian Financial Reporting Standard. So they are now required by Financial Reporting Act. They are required to submit their financial statement. Companies that are required to submit the financial statements to the Security Commission. Central Bank is the Bank Negara Malaysia, or Registrar of Company. If you are to submit, if you are accountants or you are the directors of a company, if you were to submit your financial statement to these three bodies, you must make sure, as a director or the accountants, you must ensure that your financial statement or your accounts are in compliance with the MASB approved accounting standard. So it has to follow the set of rules, right? So that was the first one. This one you can read it on your own. The second part, which is compliant with the approved accounting standard, were also mentioned in section 2441, where it requires that company must comply with the approved accounting standard. So I go very fast for this. You can go through and read the textbook on this Companies Act 2016. We are not discussing Companies Act 1965 here because it has been superseded by Companies Act 2016. And for Companies Act 2016, the reporting requirement is in detail at page 5 to 9. So you can refer page 5 to 9. Okay. Page 5 to 9. I write down for you. Next. Companies Act 2016 also mentioned if there are conflict between the Act, the Companies Act, and the approved accounting standard. Remember, approved accounting standard are the one of the MASB. So we are talking about Companies Act 2016. If there are conflict, what you need to take note is that the accounting standard shall prevail. So if there are any conflict, you need to follow the requirement of the accounting standard. If there are some conflict or inconsistency arise between whatever laid down in the Companies Act versus whatever in the approved accounting standards of MASB, accounting standard will take precedence. And companies are also required to have the accounts being kept. They must be conveniently audited, properly audited, must be kept and must be recorded within 60 days after the transaction happened, must be kept in the company for 7 years, after the completion, you need to keep the whatever documentation within 7 years, and must be at the registered office or any place that directors think fits. So must be kept either in the system, in the so-called hard copy. Yeah. So, but now we are putting things over the system. And then you have system of internal control, which is also important. So companies should have a system of internal control. So you can read this, so that why it will provide reasonable assurance that the company will be safeguarded against any loss from unauthorized use or disposition, right? So that system of internal control will give a proper account of the assets of the company. Assets of the company means maybe assets minus liabilities is also related to asset, net asset. Transaction must be properly authorized. So when we talk about system of internal control, there should be a proper authorization, and also to ensure that financial statements are being prepared to reflect true and fair view. So you can read this on your own, and we will discuss that in detail in the tutorial. The Companies Act 2016 does not say that companies accountants are responsible to prepare financial statement, but it says directors are the one that are responsible. So directors of a company are responsible, but they will delegate the responsibility to the accountants, and they must make sure that directors, the company shall prepare financial statement within 18 months. So from the date of its incorporation, after 18 months of it being incorporated, you must make sure your financial statements are ready, the first one, and subsequently within 6 months of its financial year end. Financial statement must be audited, must be sent. So these are the requirements you can go through in the textbook. As I mentioned, Companies Act 2016 is in page 5 to 9. So the responsibility of director must make sure it is being audited, sent to every member, the shareholder of the company. Directors must present the financial statement to the shareholders during the AGM. So these are the things that must be presented. You can see these are familiar to you: SOPL, the SOFP, director's report. So go through that and read. And these are the time allowed, being mentioned also in the Companies Act. So we just talk about the important part only. You can go to the textbook to get the detail. Time allowed for sending out the copies will be within 6 months for a private company after the year end. After the year end, let's say 31st of December. So the following year, by 30th of June, it must be circulated the latest within 6 months. For a public company, right, it should be at least 21 days before the date of its AGM. So before the AGM, annual general meeting, 21 days before that, you must make sure that it has been circulated, right? Basically circulated within 21 days before the date of the AGM for a public company. So you can go through the textbook. These are the duty to lodge financial statement. So you need to have that being done. So refer this and try to go through this yourself. I'm sure you can do that because these are all in the notes. So it's about when you should lodge your financial statement and report as required by the Act. So go through that. And whatever you need to understand is that whatever amount shown in the financial statement must be in Ringgit Malaysian, right? It must be translated into Ringgit Malaysia. If you have, let's say, a financial statement or a subsidiary or a multinational company, you have them all over the world, but it must be translated into Malaysian Ringgit first. Okay. This is Income Tax Act 1967. So I will stop at Income Tax Act 1967 and we will continue with our next part in our next video, but this one is more on looking at the chargeable income and tax payable of a company. So the rule are more on looking at the financial reporting side, yes, but in terms of income and the tax part, right? So this one is very important because that will enable the Director of Inland Revenue to determine whether or not the company is taxable. So to enable the determination of income, right, that are taxable. So we'll continue with Security Commission in our next lecture. Thank you for watching. I'll see you when I will see you.